What's up, and welcome to another edition of the Morning Lifter podcast, hosted by two smart men who love dumbbells, covering all things strength and leadership. This is episode 4. Shawn, what is up?
How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great.
So did you work out this morning?
I did, yeah. As always. Still working legs, working back. And the biggest thing for me is just continuing to try to get knee stability. So it's been really, really good for me, at least. I've noticed improvement every single week, but it's not easy. I mean, it's something that I've really just not wanted to do, you know, and just forcing myself to do it. The payoff has been there, but it's not easy. I'm starting to enjoy it now. I think it's, you know, getting over that not necessarily fear, but just it's hard to expose your own weaknesses, I guess, especially
the uncomfortability of it, right?
For me, it's you know, to expose the weaknesses and know, you know, everybody wants to play to their strengths, and to try to really focus on, you know, your own personal weaknesses. It's not the easiest thing to do, and it's a very humbling thing, but it's helped. Without a doubt, it's helped.
Yeah, that's good. I did a really heavy squat session yesterday. I am dying right now. Today's a rest day for me. Probably try to go for a walk and do some stretching to loosen up. Alrighty. Before we dive into today's episode, to the dozens of listeners that are going to be tuning in, we're going to be covering Nutrition 101, kind of like what we did with the workout programming a couple episodes ago. Housekeeping, as always, we are now on Apple Podcasts. You can find us there. Please rate, subscribe, and review. That helps us out a lot in terms of looking at the numbers and stuff like that. We're up on YouTube as well for another platform to access the podcast episodes. Shawn mixes them together with some cool background music. Get that motivational feel. You can find us on YouTube at just Morning Lifter. Same title across the board, keeping it simple. And the store. So some new hoodies came out. Crew necks. Some cool jackets as well. morninglifter.com/store. We'll link it in the description. Really excited about it. My entire Christmas list is basically just Morning Lifter gear. So with that, we can dive into nutrition. Nutrition 101, we're going to cover some of the basic ideologies, I guess you could call them, behind what the majority of people do. Discuss some internet buzzwords, what works, what doesn't, why, etc. So,
I'm ready when you are.
You ready, pal? Question number 1. What is a calorie?
Well, a calorie is a unit of energy, and what you take in, you know, whether that's from protein or fat or carbohydrate, you know, that's providing you a unit of energy, and that's you know, on the simplest terms, what gets you going, what keeps you, I guess, alive, you know, to the point where, you know, what you're burning off, it's that energy. Now, we can always dive into deeper stuff, but there's a big debate on, you know, a calorie is not a calorie versus people that say it is, and, you know, you can eat as many Oreo cookies as you want as long as you're in a calorie deficit. I mean, there's just so much. But on the you know, the broadest, most general scale, it's, you know, you're just looking at an energy unit.
Yep, and I'm glad you brought up the calorie is not a calorie argument. A calorie is how much energy is required to heat 1 gram of water 1 degree Celsius, is how it's measured. There was a study done that showed the box that Lucky Charms comes in, the cardboard box, provided more caloric value than the cereal itself, which goes to the argument of a calorie is not a calorie based on the scientific definition. And the Oreo cookie thing, there's a professor at, I think it was Harvard or Ivy League School of Nutrition, who ate nothing but Twinkies for a year and lost 15 pounds because of the caloric need and, you know, his energy expenditure. That doesn't mean he lost good weight or built muscle or any of the other things. it just goes to show that calories are a metric that you can use and manipulate. That's why, are they created equal? Are they not? Up for debate. But they kind of pave the way for what you do as a whole based on your, like you said, daily caloric expenditures. You have your basal metabolic rate. For those of you that don't know what that is, it is how much energy you would expend just literally like laying in bed all day. Like the baseline minimum number of calories you need to keep your body running. Yeah, calories. So that paves the way, like you said, proteins, fats, carbs, macros. So that if it fits your macros, probably one of the most popular quote unquote dieting techniques would be counting macros or tracking macros. What are your thoughts on that? Do you do it?
I don't know. Diet for me has always been a battle, and that's something that goes all the way back to, the days when I was playing football where it was easy because it didn't matter. I ate whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, because I knew that I didn't have to worry about it because I was either going to have to go lift or we were practicing or whatever. And then boom, all of a sudden football's over. Well, okay, now you can't go to Wendy's 4 times and not worry about it, or go to that Chinese buffet and just stuff your face. Now all of a sudden you've got to worry about, you got to be a little bit more conscientious of, what you're putting in your body. I remember I would get tuna helper, like the hamburger helper style meals. I would get tuna helper and I would put down 2 boxes at a time of that, well, you can't do that anymore, and for, going into more of a sedentary lifestyle because you're not as active, all of a sudden now you're forced to really calculate. When I was losing all the weight, I was really strict. And so I avoided putting things into my body that I did not think was going to benefit. And one of the best things I ever heard was just recently was Stan Efferding. I was watching a video on him. It was him and Mark Bell. And Stan had said, I don't eat things, or I don't put things in my body that I don't think are going to help it become bigger, stronger, and faster. And I thought that was a really, really good way to put it, for somebody who's struggling. And that helped me, and even to this day, like it's not a perfect science, because I think you can go crazy when you're thinking about it, especially for somebody, if you're not bodybuilding, it can be a struggle. But for somebody who's losing weight, for somebody who's initially losing weight, I don't think you have to necessarily worry about it as much, but the leaner you get, the tighter your goals are, I think the more conscientious you have to be. For me, it's always been understanding, I always put protein first. Protein was first, and then carbs were second, and then fat was at the end. And sometimes I go back and forth between the fat and the carbs, but I always make sure to hit the protein and get it from valuable sources, the dairy, the meats, the fish, even some out of grains. But generally I try from good sources, because if you don't, I don't think you're going to get the muscle, the protein synthesis as much. But you also burn more energy the more protein you ingest, and it keeps you fuller for longer. And that's why that's an important thing. I always try to hit protein first because of that.
Yep.
And then the carbs, that one I hear, you hear a lot of debates on too. And, depending on what you eat can keep you fuller for longer as well. If you eat a couple of apples, you're going to feel better than if you ate a bag of Dorito chips. And it's all about, part of it too. I mean, we could go into, a whole nother episode just about the glycemic index, but understanding what foods can provide you more nutrition. So really what it's all about now for me is looking at how much of the nutritional value can my body hold on to, and what is not going to waste. I don't want to waste any of the nutrients anymore. Now that doesn't mean that I have days, I have days where I fall off the wagon just like anybody else does. But I think the key then is do you have that ability the next day to get back on? And that's where you see a lot of the discipline. That's where you see the people who are maintaining their weight more than the person who falls off the wagon and then says, well, all hope is lost. I'm just going to go to a pizza joint and smash 3 pizzas, and then all of a sudden they're back to square one. You got to be able to, at some point in time, I think too, you have to live life. And especially for the normal person, there's no reason that you can't have a little bit, of variety. It's not like you can't never have pizza or never have a piece of, candy, things like that. Everything, and you talked about this before, and it's no different really with weightlifting or anything else in life. You got to have a little bit of moderation. You got to be willing to do some other things. And, for me, the best thing is making sure protein is first. I always do 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight at least. And usually I'm probably right now at about 1 1/4. So I'm about 245, 250 pounds. And so I'll try to get at least that, if not 300 plus. And then I'll try to keep the carbohydrates right around 250, 280. Some days, maybe a little bit less. And then fat is going to be a little bit less, somewhere between, I think, 90 and 100. And then working off of that based off of total calories, trying to find that happy medium where you're burning enough fat off of your body but still maintaining muscle. That can be a difficult process. But I think for the average person, it's understanding, I think, what's your most important macro, like what are you focused on? And I know we're going to get into the keto thing, and that's kind of where you're changing up your carbs and your fat. So for me, at least, that's my plan.
Yeah, you hit on a lot. Not to summarize, but to summarize a little bit and throw my spin on it, would be that proteins, fats, and carbs is a way of counting calories that kind of provides like a checks and balances system. So if you're just housing Oreos all day, your carbs and fats are going to be way out of line, even if you're in a caloric deficit. And obviously the protein number won't be there. So proteins and carbohydrates, 1 gram of protein and 1 gram of carbs provides 4 calories. And 1 gram of fat provides 9 calories. So you threw out your numbers for proteins, fats, and carbs for your current diet, the 250 to 300, 200, and then like the 90 to 100. With macros, a good starting point that I read online from a nutrition coach was that you start with those numbers that provide a 1 to 1 to 1 calorie ratio. So that would be like 200 carb, 200 protein. Both of those would provide 800 calories of energy. And then to get to 800 calories of energy for fats, it would be what, like 90? 90 times 9 is 810. So right there is, 200 protein, 200 carb, 90 fat. Gets you in the ballpark for a starting range, and then you can manipulate as needed. That's, I think macros are great. I track them. I have tracked them before, currently tracking them now. My goal is kind of the same, kind of in line with where you are. I keep my fat a little bit lower than you. I go protein right around 1 gram per pound. My carbs are, between 250, 300, and my fat is between like 60 and 70. It was interesting to hear you talk about how you interchange the carb and fat prioritization, because most dietitians and nutritionists would argue that you need to keep your fats in line
the other
before
thing
your
too,
carbs, just based on your body's hormones
I think
and endocrine system.
Is pretty unique if you look at it. Like you said, the dietitians and nutritionists, they're going to say, do this based off of science. But number one, everybody's body's different, and I view your own body as your own laboratory. And so what might work for the quote unquote general population may not work for you. Just like, not everybody's 5'10", 180 pounds. You have people, I'm watching a college game yesterday. Minnesota, their offensive tackle is 6'9", 400 pounds.
Talk about Penn State, Minnesota, please.
So yeah, for you that's a problem. But you're going to tell me like his caloric needs are going to be a little different than somebody who's 5'10". And so the way I look at it is that, your body is your own laboratory, and you have to experiment. And if you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, that's the definition of it. And so you might as well give it a shot, see what works, see what doesn't, make notations of it. If something doesn't work, then don't do it again. Move on to something else. And if you find something that works, stick with it and stay with it. But don't be afraid to. It's the same thing with, I think, in some ways, going back to the weight room. If you keep doing the same exercise year in and year out, you're not going to get any bigger, you're not going to get any stronger. And so you've got to be able to find something that works, something that can help you reach your goals, really.
Yeah, you got to do what works for you. Best diet out there is the one that works, the one that you can stick to, the one you can stay consistent on. Look at The Rock, dude. The Rock has some of the most epic cheat meals on the internet. He's built like a Greek god. So 80-20 lifestyle for sure.
Well, and he's in his in his 40s now?
He's
and
50.
He's arguably in the best shape of his life. But when you looked at him in his 20s and 30s, he looked nothing like that. And so that goes to show you what a strong strength regimen coupled with the right diet can do. But like you said, he still has his cheat meals. He's sitting down with giant cookies and shots of tequila and everything else, and he's doing okay, but it's in moderation.
Yeah, he's a legend. So, all right, intermittent fasting, or IF. Next one, we're going to burn through these. We talked a lot about macros. Luckily, there's not as much to talk about with some of these. Intermittent fasting, what do you got for me?
Well, that's the most common one is the 16 off, 8 on. And generally speaking, the goal is for you to eat less. And, it's over that 16-hour period, you get into a state eventually, I think it's right around that 12-hour window where you start getting into a state of ketosis where, your body turns to fat as a fuel source and starts burning the fat off of your body. And then you can go and kind of eat, a little bit more liberally those 8 hours, but generally because you're going longer periods without eating, the theory is you're going to eat less. So that's where a lot of people can lose weight, is because now you're eating less and you're not thinking about it. And intermittent fasting has been around for almost what seems to be as long as civilization. But if you're like a bodybuilder or a power lifter, that's not going to work. And so it goes back to what is it that you're trying to do? Are you trying to gain strength? You can still gain strength by intermittent fasting, but you have to be very, very, very conscientious of muscle protein synthesis, how to get that going. You might have to take some extra supplements. Jim Stepani has a really good article about it. He has done intermittent fasting. I believe he still does. And he talks about that. So, if you're trying to lose weight initially, it might be a good way to start. But if you're looking to gain muscle or be a bodybuilder, things like that, your intermittent fasting is probably not for you.
Yeah. Excuse me. That one's tough. So either intermittent fasting is restricting the amount of calories you eat in a day based on eating windows. So either 12-12 or 16-8. I did this briefly when I was living in Connecticut, kind of not out of necessity, but I just stopped eating breakfast because I wasn't hungry and I was always on the go. Didn't really feel too much of a difference other than I get dog tired in the middle of the morning, around the 10 to 11 o'clock window. And at that point, I'm usually like running to my desk at work or somewhere to grab a protein bar or something, to the point where I was not holding out any longer than that. So I'm not, I don't like putting myself in those situations. If I'm hungry, I want to eat. I want to listen to my body. It's telling me that I need fuel. But I'm sure over time you can adapt and stuff like that. And there's supposed to be some benefits of mental clarity and increased testosterone and some other stuff that
there are.
People on Instagram will preach about.
Yeah, there's research about it that talks about there are a lot of really good benefits. One of the biggest drawbacks, like with a lot of people who've tried it, I think it's right around 35% of the people who don't make it are the ones, they can't, when you get to that 14-hour, 15-hour, all of a sudden your body is screaming at you to eat, And it's the people who drop out. Really, that's one of the biggest downfalls from it, you know, and that's where people struggle. And I found that, you know, you can get past that window when you get super focused on something. And I'm sure we've all done this, you know, where we're sitting on a project or working on something or we're doing something and you say to yourself, well, I've forgotten to eat. And if you can find a way to get, you know, super focused, sleeping helps too. If you can sleep more, that starts your, you know, that's part of your fasting window. If you can sleep more, that could certainly help you. Or if there's something that you are super focused on and you don't even think about it, you know, that helps. But then obviously the more you start thinking about it, it's like breaking the seal. You know, the more you start thinking about it, the worse it gets.
Yep. And I have a very obsessive personality to the point where as soon as that thought of hunger creeps into my mind,
I'm the same way.
To eat. It's bad. So it's, you know, a lot of these come down to practicality, right? We're humans. We do not live in a vacuum. In theory, being able to take off 16 hours from eating each day sounds very doable and reasonable. Life can get in the way. Another thing with this you have to worry about is the practicality of when you train, because if you don't want to train fasted, that like training fasted will obviously affect your workout, you know, because you don't have nutrients and stuff in your body. So if you're someone who works out in the morning but then doesn't eat until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, that's probably not awesome either, you know. On Friday morning, I worked out in the morning. I had 2 meals in by 7 a.m. Okay, before I worked out and after I worked out. So I'm not gonna work out before I go to work and then sit around and wait until noon to eat. You know, it's the practicality aspect. So I think Terry Crews, the actor, is a big intermittent fasting guy. I think he like lives by it.
I don't know about that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, of course, then again, he has all the money in the world and drinks BCAAs like they're nothing. And
well, he's got all that Old Spice. You know, his head explodes half the time. So
bingo, that power. All right, so intermittent fasting, if it works for you, great. There seems to be some benefits. If it doesn't,
try it for a week. You know, try it for a week. Try it for 7 days, and if it doesn't, you know, if you can't go for it, then move on to something else. And again, it's your body's a laboratory. You gotta try things in order to find out if they work or not.
Yeah, trial and error for sure. Here we go, the big one: keto, ketogenic. You did it. Now I want to not get too into the experience aspect of it because I think we could do. I actually want to do a whole episode on that based on the practicality of it. But let's just talk about the brief overview.
Yeah, I mean, well, the whole idea is to get your body to burn away its fat. And for me, I worked a pyramid to get myself into it, and so I would work down my calories. So I would start with a range and then reduce it every single day. And then every single week.
Your range of carbs, you know,
or your my total range of everything, of calories. Now protein I kept the same.
Right.
I kept protein the same, but then fat and carbs would decrease. And I can't remember the exact amount, but when I first started, I think I was right around 3,000 calories. And by the time, I did this for a couple of cycles now. Keep that in mind. And I got down to right around 1,800. And you know, the majority of that, 85% of that was protein. I would go and work out first thing. I would do fasted cardio, and I would get a protein shake. And I have all my meals timed out because I knew I only had a certain amount of calories to ingest. And so that was very, very, very difficult. It created a lot of discipline to know that I could do that. But towards the end, I was really cranky. And I didn't have much energy. I didn't have much energy to do anything.
Bingo.
And that for me was very, very difficult, especially when I got down to around 1,800 calories. I dropped 90 pounds, and it was great. But I soon found out, can't sustain it. I can't, because I had lost all my water. You know, when you drop all those carbs, you lose all your water weight. And now I had kept my fat super low too. So if
you
I
were almost in a protein sparing modified fast then.
Just about.
Yeah.
But I think I was eating just enough there.
Yeah.
But it wasn't sustainable. You know, I had lost all my water, so I had really leaned out, but it was not something that was sustainable. It was only years later I was able to find something that was a little bit more sustainable.
That's good. Not to get too sciencey with it, but the basic physiology principles behind this, I mean, this is like exercise science 101, is that your body burns carbs for fuel, right? They convert it to glucose, which is used to synthesize ATP, which is like cellular energy, and ATP is what gives you the energy. So what keto does, in the absence of carbohydrate, your body will break down fat into these ketones. They're molecules of fat that are basically their usable form, and use those for energy. Now, the process of that is a lot less efficient than using carbohydrate for energy. So, for example, I'm just going to put dummy numbers to it. If you're using glucose in your metabolic pathways for energy, you might get 50 ATP, right? 50 energy, whatever unit you want to slap on there. If you're doing keto with breaking down ketones, fatty acids, you might only get 25, 30, whatever it is, molecules of ATP. So it's a far less efficient process, but like you said, it has benefits if you need to, one, lose an absurd amount of weight, or two, another point we didn't even talk about, if you're an ultra endurance athlete, like ultra marathoner, ultra Ironman runner, if you're not ingesting carbs and are using fat for fuel, you have a nearly unlimited supply of it on your body, and you do not have to worry about the carb crash out if you hit too low. Because I've experienced that once in my life, and I never want to do it again, is carb crashing out. So I think there are specific demographics of people who can benefit from keto, as well as it's been shown to really help individuals that have some like seizure disorders and some other health risks based on like the way glucose is metabolized and stuff in the brain. That keto, going on a ketogenic diet, can drastically reduce the effects and the symptoms of that. So there are some really, really good demographics of people that could benefit from keto. But if you're any type of athlete who trains in the weight room or any type of like short explosive movement, aka like a sport that's not ultra endurance running, I would say don't do keto. That's, my 100% biased and unexpert opinion. And I really want to get into your experience a little bit deeper on a different podcast episode, because that would warrant, a full deep dive into just exactly how you felt. You said like it sucked even getting out of bed some days at 1,800 calories, but it worked because you look great and are jacked dad.
Yeah, I mean I can go through, when we decide to do that, I can go through the entire process from start to finish. So it was an interesting process. Definitely, there were some good things that we can discuss, without a doubt.
The caveman diet, Paleo, just eat giant slabs of meat all the time.
It's a good thing that the scientists finally discovered that, oh wait, meat is actually good for you, and lots of it. I never really believed that to begin with.
I wasn't even gonna go there. I think we can skip vegan and vegetarian.
I love my meat.
Yeah. We are a pro meat eating podcast. For all the listeners out there, sometimes the jokes just write themselves. So we're gonna skip veganism and vegetarianism. Aside from your, ethical beliefs and stuff like that, we think meat proteins are great sources. So anyway, Paleo, caveman diet.
I have not really tried it. I think the basis of it is really good. It's pretty much, it's like they call it the caveman diet. So you are like where you're searching for berries and nuts and fruits and vegetables and meat, and that's what it's all about. Now they had mentioned too that there's a big difference because especially with us today, like we go to work and then we sit at a desk for 8 hours. The cavemen were exercising, they were walking, they were searching, they were literally hunting all day for their food, and so they were much more active than we are. And some days they may not have gotten food, and that I think is one of the big differences. And so I've heard really, really good things about it. I don't see any problem with red meat. I think red meat is really good for you. I think you should continue to eat it, and I think you should continue to eat chicken and fish and all of the things that are here for us to eat. That's why they're here. That's why we're on top of the food chain. They're here to actually help 100%. Sustain our life. That's why you have deer season, because there's more deer than needs to be in the population. So people go and hunt the deer, kill the deer, and they eat the deer. And deer's actually not bad.
Rifle season's coming up. Deer's pretty solid. Yeah. It basically comes down to eat meat and veggies with some nuts and fruit in there as well. One thing that I'm curious, and I have not done the research on it, the timing and the quantities of the food that you would eat, I'm sure play an important role. Kind of like what you had pointed out, that it's not every day you're going to kill a deer if you're a hunter-gatherer caveman, or it's not every day you're going to have a protein source, like an animal protein source. So with that, with the caveman paleo diet, do you do, like, you only eat meat every 2 or 3 days? Like, you know, I'm just curious how the experimentation will work with that, and that's something that you'd have to play around with, I'm sure, to find out what works for you, because the majority of the caveman's calories came from plants, berries, nuts, etc. I'm just curious more than anything on that. There's not a whole lot.
And if there's somebody, if there's somebody who's listening to this and you've done it, let us know. Let us know what you think about it, and give us your opinion and the pros and cons to it.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Absolutely. 100%. Yes, please. Next one on here I have are the fad diets. Zone, Weight Watchers, Atkins, whatever you want to call them. What are your just general thoughts on those? We don't have to dive into what each one does specifically, but they all just work to keep the individual who's on them accountable.
Probably the most successful, because I've seen it firsthand, is the one that I think is most beneficial is Weight Watchers. I've seen that firsthand.
Yeah.
My in-laws have done it. My parents have done it. You know, but it only works if, like with all other things, it only works if you do it and stay on it and continue to do it. You know, that's when it doesn't work, is when you don't do it. But I think Weight Watchers, from all the other ones, it seems to be Weight Watchers, you know, I think they've done a really good job of helping people with the points, you know, that the point system that they have, and they've adjusted it now too for people who train, people who work out. You know, it used to be a one-size-fits-all, which I think that was the problem initially, and they've gone back and they've kind of changed their methodology a little bit, and so based off of your lifestyle, you get more points if you train X amount or do this, and so as long as you're staying within your points, and they have a huge library of foods, and it's very, very resourceful, and for a lot of people, it's been a really good thing. And I think that's one of and Weight Watchers has been around for a long, long time. And I think that's probably one of the more proven, diets. But I don't even know if it's a diet anymore. For a lot of people, that's a lifestyle, and that's really what your nutrition is all about, is making it a lifestyle with your training. But even if you're not training, your what you put in your body still has to be a lifestyle.
Yeah. That's a good point. I like Weight Watchers in that regard too, because like you said, one, the library of foods that they have to choose from. Two, it allows you to eat anything. It is not restrictive. I'm a firm believer that a diet should not be about what you cannot eat. It should be about what you can eat. Eat the damn cookie, dude. If you want a cookie, eat the cookie, right? It's going to drive you insane if you don't. On the flip side of that, with Weight Watchers, is like the network of accountability. They have the meetings and the books and the app, and like even on the app, I think is like kind of set up like a social networking platform, how you can check in with people and see who had what, etc. I don't know. I don't have the app, obviously, but from what I've heard and what I've seen online and stuff. And also too, just the accessibility of their food. Like you walk into a grocery store or a supermarket, you got hundreds of options to choose from that have the points just right there, and like everybody can count the points.
For a lot of people, it's something like probably 15 and 30, I think, depending on what you eat. And it's the entire meal is like, an entire meal might be 2 points or 6 points.
Yeah, I think if you had to pick one of those, Weight Watchers is probably pretty good. The Zone kind of does the same thing as the points, how they have like different zones, 1 through 5, I believe. And like foods are aligned into different zones based on how calorically dense they are. But Weight Watchers pretty good, holds you accountable. It's easy. It's easy. It's livable. Like you said, they made it a lifestyle now. I didn't even know about the training aspect for people who work out. That's awesome. A great feature for sure. So Weight Watchers, not terrible. There are worse things you could do. The CrossFit diet. So I read an excerpt from Coach Glassman's Fitness in 100 Words 2 episodes ago about the training aspect of CrossFit. Doing, as many different variations as creativity will allow of certain movements, etc. Well, the first part of that is the diet aspect of his World Class Fitness in 100 Words excerpt. and it reads, eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. Keep intake to levels that will promote exercise but not body fat.
Well, I mean, there's not much I can really say to it because I don't know much about it. And though that quote sounds good, I think that sounds, that should be applicable to anybody.
That sounds like a lifestyle, right?
Right. This quote, that should be applicable to anybody. And if you can do that anything that promotes exercise, anything you put in your body, and it's very similar to what I said at the beginning of the episode with Stan Efferding, what you put in your body, if it helps you to get bigger, stronger, and faster, then that's what you should put in your body. Now, again, it doesn't, for most people, now he's the world's strongest bodybuilder. For most people, they're not bodybuilders or they're not CrossFit athletes or anything like that. But anytime you can eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar, and keep intake levels that promote exercise and little body fat, that's a lifestyle, regardless of what you're doing. And anybody can do that.
Yeah, no, I think it's like pretty much puts a bow on all the other topics that we talked about, like meat and vegetables. That's, caveman diet. Keto is a lot of meat and vegetables and healthy fat sources. Intermittent fasting, even, like when you're in that window, you want to eat healthy foods that promote exercise so you can train well and have, exciting workouts. If you eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar, your macros are probably going to be pretty decent, right? So it kind of really, that's why I put it at the end. It kind of ties in everything we've just discussed in the last 40 minutes and really puts a bow on it in that it's sustainable, it's long term, it probably works. I mean, you look at some of the guys who compete in the CrossFit Games, they're ripped as hell, and they're moving weight at an Olympic weightlifting level, and they're strong as hell and can run and have great VO2 max, metabolic capacity. They're pretty healthy, So I try to, not that I do CrossFit or anything, but I do appreciate some of their principles and stuff like that, and this is one of them. Like, this is pretty good. I mean, meat, vegetables, nuts, seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. Bottom line, find something that's sustainable, long term, that'll work. The best diet's the one that works, and the worst diet is one that creates an unhealthy relationship with food. So, we're humans, we do not live in a vacuum. Sometimes life gets in the way. 80-20, 80% of the time, be pretty good, pretty strict about it. 20% of the time, live your life.
I agree, absolutely. And just do things in moderation.
Yep. I have a couple questions. If you want to get into them, we can probably go. I have 4 here. Some of them don't require explanations, some do, so we'll be able to burn through
Sure, let's go.
Question 1, I'm struggling to increase my bench press 1 rep max. Do you have any tips to help me out?
One of the best things that helped me out was block bench. So that sticking point, and I've written an article about getting past the sticking point. I have not posted it yet, like many of the others that I have. But you want to get past the sticking point. You have to perform other exercises that mimic that exercise. So for a lot of people, it's about at that halfway point, and it's pushing to get that lockout. And so for a lot of people, and if you don't have a block, and there's a post that I have on my website about the block bench and how that can help you. Try a specialty bar. Specialty bars are another great way. A camber bar that helps get you more stretch at the bottom of the bottom movement can help. But work the top point with a block, and go heavy. Go heavy weight, and then work your accessories. So you got to hit your triceps hard. Lots of dips. Dips will really help stretch out your chest, and they'll help strengthen those triceps. And you do that for a little while, and maybe you don't bench. Get away from benching for a month or for 6 weeks, and don't bench, but do everything else. Do a floor bench, or do a block bench, or you should do some variation of it, and then come back after about 6 weeks and test again, see where you're at. And if you actually apply that, give us 6 weeks and come back and tell us if it worked.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I like the step away. Don't train. If you want to increase your regular barbell bench press, do everything but regular barbell bench press. I'm a huge fan of the closed grip bench. Really hit the triceps. You said, the triceps are probably the sticking point. I agree. The floor bench is really good too. I didn't even think about the specialty bars. That was a really good point. Those will help as well. Skull crushers, dips. You can also change the time under tension. So maybe do some
pre-exhaustion,
some super long pauses. Pre-exhaustion, progressive overload, drop sets. Yeah, hit us up if you need more info. I think we just gave you a lot. What do your current supplement stacks look like?
Oh, that's a good one. We could spend a whole episode on that. When I was, 10 years ago when I was trying to lose all the weight, the supplements are, I don't want to get too into it because they'll tell you everything under the sun, everything that you can do, but I'm pretty basic now. A lot of people will drink coffee or they'll take a straight pre-workout. I don't do that. I don't like all the extra stuff in pre-workout because there's a lot of research that actually says that it doesn't do anything. It's really only a couple ingredients. So I just take a caffeine supplement. So I'll take that and I'll stack it with citrulline malate because that's really what a lot of the studies show. That's what gets you your pump and your feeling. And I'll take it with beta-alanine in the morning. And that's my basic pre-workout. And then I'll take, what else? I take arginine and L-carnitine, and I just take some caffeine throughout the day. My supplement stacks are pretty basic now as I've gotten older. And then I take ZMA at night, and that's really about it.
You hit the whey protein at all, or any?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The after workout, it's whey protein with BCAAs, glutamine, a little bit of PB Fit, and creatine, and that's it. That's pretty basic,
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's other stuff out there, but for me, that's been enough.
Yeah, it's a supplement. It's supposed to supplement your diet and exercise regimen. You should not be using it as a crutch. I kind of follow the same principles as you and kind of keep it simple. I do pre-workout supplement that has some caffeine, like you said, citrulline, beta-alanine. I do buy over the counter just because I'm too lazy to mix them together and choose to spend my time elsewhere. Right after I'm done working out, and I'm talking like on the drive home, I will have creatine monohydrate. Research has shown that after stressful training events that your cells are a little bit more receptive to the uptake because they're in a state of shock from the training. So I will do creatine monohydrate on the way home or on the way to the office, whatever, Immediately after the gym, I will do whey protein throughout the day as needed to hit my protein intake goals. And I take a fish oil in the morning just because I do not eat a whole lot of fish. I don't really like the taste. Every now and then I'll have some whitefish or salmon, but really it's not a huge part of my diet, so I will supplement with fish oils as needed. So I also keep it pretty simple. Okay, I got two more here. Well, I'm gonna save the one for the next episode because we are running slightly short on time. Last question. If you could do only one exercise for the rest of your life, what would it be?
It's a good one. It would probably be some type of full body exercise, whether that's an Olympic complex or some type of power clean with a push jerk. Anything that encompasses full body. If I had to pick, it would be something that would hit just about every muscle. Something that would, be able to get you to train, in multiple fashions. But the good thing is we don't have to pick.
Yeah, that was a tough one. My instant gut reaction when I saw it submitted was a pull-up, just because of all the upper body workings that you will use, and pull-ups make you look pretty cool when you do them in the gym. So, but I kind of agree with you in that some sort of clean and jerk variation would be good. Just, I mean, the clean off the floor, you're getting the benefits of the deadlift. You throw in the hip extension. You catch it at the bottom. You're doing a front squat to stand up, and then you still have to lift the bar over your head after all of that. So, clean and jerk's probably, only one. Or even if we want to go more basic, I'm thinking like body weight stuff, like a burpee maybe. And I absolutely hate burpees. I hate burpees. But if you're only doing one thing, right, you want to get the most out of it. That's
a good question.
I don't know. That's tough. Thanks for that. So that's it. There's one more, but it's a long-winded question on mobility versus flexibility. I think we should save that for a future episode, just because it's going to get pretty technical and probably last another couple minutes. So, alrighty. You have anything else, bud?
No. Hey, if anyone is interested in shirts, there's going to be a sale coming up here in about a week. So it's going to run through the Black Friday sale. So keep a lookout if you're interested. There will be a sale. Any support is greatly appreciated, as this is in smaller terms kind of a grassroots effort.
Until next time, guys, why don't we keep it strong, keep it safe, be your best you.
See ya.